That road is nuts with the wind, dude. It's fun on the way back, but out there.
You're trying to lean down as much as possible.
Oh, dude, it'll blow you right off the
Yeah. But if you lean down too much, then the soda starts leaking in your backpack.
Yep, exactly.
No, like, give me the dance number.
I'm trying to move, man.
I need 120 beats per minute.
Minimum.
Yeah.
Straight up. I want to get a job where I can ride my bike to work, for real.
Hi, and welcome to Tell Me About Your Bike, the podcast about the meaning of life, the universe, and bicycling. I'm your host, Wesley Cheney. In this episode, I conclude my conversation with fellow Freaky Fast Jimmy John's delivery rider Kyle Goshen at Old Dominion University's Perry Library. We talk about riding into headwinds, leaky drinks, and why commuting by bike is important, as well as bears, guns, and beats per minute. In this episode, I also debut my own original essay. I've been inspired in equal measure by Clay Jenkinson and Paul Fresnel. Paul Fresnel, of course, is the incomparable French essayist and cyclist who wrote Need for the Bike, which I've read in earlier podcasts. If you haven't heard it, check out some of the earlier episodes. You're in for a treat. I'm also inspired to write and record an original essay by Clay Jenkinson, the man behind the Thomas Jefferson Hour. For the past year, Clay has written a Jeffersonian essay for each episode and read it at the conclusion. And while I may never reach Clay's levels of success as a cultural force, I'm going to try my hand at some little essays. And fittingly, this week's first essay is about my first bike, or should I say, my first trike. If you enjoy Tell Me About Your Bike, share it with a friend. You can share this episode through your podcast app. If you know someone who rides a bike to work, invite them to listen to Tell Me About Your Bike. I want to get hundreds and thousands of people listening to the podcast. Please rate and review Tell Me About Your Bike wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps more people see the show and their search results. So listen now to another episode of Tell Me About Your Bike.
Exercises you think you have saved?
I don't know.
It doesn't keep track, really?
It does, but I don't know how many it is. You know, I mean, I ride every day. I ride. I put Strava on it. So.
Oh, at work. Okay.
Yeah, just because it's interesting to me to see where I ride each day and what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Northside Park. That's another park where you can go ride.
Oh yeah, Northside.
I
skate there.
Yeah, there's some trails behind it that are okay. We're working it with Bike Norfolk to get them better, but they're not that fantastic. Let's see. Yeah, that's my. That's going to my kids live. So.
Was that near Granby?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that bridge.
Yeah.
I noticed that bridge.
Yeah, that's a great bridge. I love that. Jerry John's, walking. Let's see how far back are we? October. Okay, we're getting there.
So this is like August or July or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I was before that in September, I was down in Raleigh and I was working on the rickshaws. Riding the rickshaws at the state fair for a week and a half. That was pretty fun. I was exhausting as hell.
I bet, dude.
I mean, it was just so slow. Oh yeah, there's my recumbent. So.
Oh yeah, good old thing.
I can remember riding that. Every 2 miles, I had another spoke break. I was just like, oh,
all right, this is the end.
I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. This bike is no longer fun. Let's get rid of this. Yeah, little climb up mountain before me. There we go. Yeah, so that's in the Yukon.
Oh, damn.
So we were
so sick.
Yeah, and so that's underneath my shirt. I'm wearing that armor, and I'm wearing it on my legs too. It was a really cool ride that day.
Yeah,
and that's bear poop in the middle of the trail.
I was about to ask, man, you run into wildlife a lot up there?
Yeah.
Or, let me rephrase, dangerous, predatory wildlife?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would, and you would just kind of...
Just yell at them?
Yeah, I mean, you just keep,
Everyone around bears seems pretty comfortable with them.
They're not the worst. I mean, Mountain Hero, there it is. Okay, so we rode 18 miles, 28.44 kilometers, so about 18 miles, and
just straight uphill.
1,358 meters of elevation gain. And we were, and so we started next to the water, and we went up and over the mountain to the other side. And it was, when we got to the top, we were crunching through snow. There was still snow at the top of the mountain.
So y'all were freezing up there a little bit?
July 6th.
Crazy.
No, it wasn't. We weren't freezing. Like, you didn't want to stop moving.
Yeah. You guys had worked up a nice sweat.
Yeah, we walked uphill for 9 miles to ride back down 9 miles.
Yeah.
And, it was, sometimes you were riding, and then sometimes the trail would get so steep that you just got off and you're just pushing it.
Yeah, too.
There's no option.
Yeah.
I mean, even with the guys who had, like, the super low gearing on their bikes, when they would be pedaling, they would still be going pretty much the same speed as what I would get when I was just off my bike, just pushing it up the hill.
You're just like...
Right. I mean, you'd be spinning and you'd be just so slow. You're just, I guess,
miserable.
You could make an argument that it was better to be...
hiking it?
Yeah, or riding it because you were doing a little bit less work. But the thing was, if you hit anything that was technical, you had so little momentum at that point that you were going to very easily stall out and lose your balance and fall over.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, you didn't, but we would be riding, then the White Pass, we would just be going up the hill all day long on that. And, like, I did my Everest attempt up on that, and that was, from start to finish, it was about 873 meters of elevation gain, so just around 3,000 feet of elevation gain, and that was in 14 miles.
Yeah.
So, and so I had to do that 9 times in order to do the Everest challenge.
Really? You got to qualify for it?
Yeah. Well, the Everest challenge is, the idea is that you do one loop, and you keep riding that same loop
until you reach the height of
Everest.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. One nonstop effort.
How is it? Wait, so you said an attempt?
Well, I did it twice. I did the first time. I got about halfway into it, and I realized that I couldn't keep going.
Yeah.
Like,
it wasn't even worth it.
I was starting to hallucinate on the bike at night, and I was seeing stuff that wasn't there on the bike, and that's when I was just like, okay, I'm gonna stop. Like, and
your body just shut down on you too.
Well, I wanted to keep riding, but it was like the middle of the night, and I'd already ridden like 100 miles.
Yeah.
And
all in one loop.
Yeah, it's 14 miles up and then 14 miles back down, and 14 miles up and 14 miles back down, and so I'd been doing that all day long. And I'd actually been doing like a longer loop, so I was going over the mountain and then doing some on the backside of it, and then coming back so that I could say I had been riding in Canada as well, and not just the United States. And it beautiful. Like, it was the only time I saw caribou in the wild.
Really?
Up there, where I failed my attempt, but I saw caribou. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I quit because I just couldn't. I couldn't stay awake, and so the next time I tried it was like 2 weeks later, and
2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, and I thought about like how I did it, and I decided to eliminate. Like, I talked to the organizers and I explained like the situation where I was riding, and I was like, hey, the really intense part of this is just this section.
In those areas? Do they hunt in those areas?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. They might be You might take a rogue bear.
Yeah.
You might run up on
They got used to seeing people on the highway, and they just knew, like, people were there. People don't screw with us.
Yeah.
We don't screw with the people.
Okay.
And they didn't associate us with food.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a problem of them, like, coming up to us and looking for handouts.
Yeah.
And they have had bears up there where stupid tour guides have started feeding the bears, and then the bears start acting aggressively towards other cars that come along, and then they end up having to kill those bears.
All because of some human
because
interaction.
of some stupid human. Yeah. So we did a lot to really try and keep that down and not, but we would when we were riding, or if you were hiking alone, you'd bring bear spray along. You just no guns.
Yeah.
There would be occasion, like I think I saw, in all the time that I was up there, I saw one guy who was out hiking, and he was carrying like a big ass, like, dirty, hairy 44 Magnum.
Yeah.
And I could tell, like, he had come from the interior where you run into more brown bears.
Yeah.
And and you would, if you were in the interior,
you definitely need
you would want a big gun like that because a lot of times you can come up on a bear and the bears are going to be a lot more aggressive.
Oh yeah.
And so, whereas on the coast, the bears,
don't they interact with humans more and stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, they're more social along the coast.
Yeah.
So they're more used to seeing us. They also tend to be a little bit more timid. And so they've along the coast, because there's such an abundance of food. It's kind of like humans learning to tolerate each other on a buffet line. Like, you don't need to get into a fight with me over the fried chicken.
Yeah, it's gonna be
bro. There's more than enough for both of us.
All right.
Live and let live. I'm gonna get some food. You're gonna get some food.
We're all good.
As long as you don't try and take the last blueberry brownie, okay? You try and do that, we might have problems. We'll have words.
You seen them scrap?
No.
That's cool though.
Yeah, and we would like run into, we'd see foxes and marmots, which are like a mountain groundhog. We'd see a lot of those. They'd be dead on the side of the road sometimes. They were slow and fat. Yeah, they were like big, fat, slow rodents.
Yeah,
but they're fun.
Speed bumps.
I remember seeing at one point we were one of the marmots got hit, and it got the ravens came out and started to disembowel it.
Yeah.
And so there was about 30 feet of marmot intestine stretched out along the road. Oh, like the raven had just like started pulling, and then just like kept like hopping away with the intestine.
And it just kept coming.
Just kept coming out.
Dude.
And so we'd always be telling people, like, you need to keep 30 feet between yourself and the rider in front of you when we'd be descending the mountain. So then we started joking with each other. We're like, and please keep one marmot's intestine between yourself and the rider in front of you.
Used as a unit of measurement.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus. That's nature, man.
Yeah. So we would see them, but there was and it was, I mean, if you want a job like where you're riding your bike all the time and it's a fun group of people to be working with, that is it. I mean, it's
the scene in general.
Yeah.
Like your scenic routes and all that.
It's so beautiful. It looks like you're stuck in like Adventure Time, where like you've got these little kid-shaped V mountains with like white tops on them, and like,
exactly.
That's exactly what Alaska looks like, and there's glaciers, and the water is just so blue. I mean, it's just amazing.
Pristine.
Oh my gosh,
Were you able to fish and stuff too?
I didn't. I saw other people. I knew other people who did. I haven't been a big fisherman since I was in my teens. Mm-hmm. So not that I was against it.
Just not something you're into.
Yeah. But I saw people who did.
Yeah.
And they, the salmon were. I ate salmon that was like
right out the water, right out the river.
Yeah, like it had been twitching when we put it onto the grill. Like it was that fresh.
That's sweet, man.
And it was tasty. It was really good. I don't eat a lot of fish, but that stuff I would eat for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Did you get to take anywhere else, or did biking like that take you anywhere else besides Alaska?
Well, we went out to the Yukon, so we were right on the border between Alaska and the Yukon.
Or is that the only place you've done bike tours?
Bike tours? I've done bike tours here for Norfolk.
Oh, okay.
So for German cruise ships when they come in the fall, so they hire
cruise ships come in and stop here.
Yeah, and they'll have 80 or 100 bikes on board, and so they'll hire locals to take them out for rides.
Have you seen? Is that where the on Waterside is the dude? That's what that is.
Yeah.
That thing looks like a building. When I first saw that, I was driving around Waterside and like, I just didn't. It didn't even click that was a boat, dude. That looked like a
so big,
building.
yeah.
It's massive.
We would have 4 of those a day in Skagway.
Oh my goodness. Oh, so that's who you're doing tours for?
We were doing tours for cruise ships up there.
Is it minority like English? Okay, so is it mostly people from like different parts of the world, or is it mostly like
probably 85-90% are Americans.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and most of the other people would be from Great Britain or Australia.
Okay. So there's no language barrier or nothing.
Not really.
Yeah.
There was a couple of times when we would have to translate for other people, and so but we always told them we were giving the tour in English.
Yeah.
You know, so we kind of expected they would have, yeah.
We would get to see everything though.
We would have our our bicycle orientation and sheet and our safety lecture. We would have copies of that in Spanish. I think we had it in French, Mandarin, Hindi, Japanese, and Korean. We didn't have German.
Yeah, why not?
Just
never got no German?
Well, the Germans usually came in and they'd be so fluent in English that we wouldn't need to give it to them. Yeah. And there was one instance where we had a couple from Germany, and the wife was deaf and the husband was mostly deaf, and they didn't know any English, but they'd signed up for this bike ride, and they were like, "Hey, Wes, you know German, right?" "Yeah." "Okay, so you're going to go ahead and give the tour safety lecture and bicycle orientation in German to this hearing disabled couple."
Did the dude hear you enough?
Yeah, just barely.
And what, he would just like do hand signs?
Yeah, it was a difficult conversation.
Yeah, I can imagine, man.
Yeah, so we you know, I mean, I had enough time that I could prep and like get just like the very basics down, so that and they were already such skilled riders because they didn't drive back in Germany. They just rode their bikes. I want to get a job where I can ride my bike to work for real. Yeah, so that's the goal. Yeah, dude, I mean, that's a great goal. Like, like I would say, you know, check out the, you know, the rickshaw scene is another good place where you can make a lot of money, and it's really chill, but you're riding really, really hard all day long. Oh no! I just want to ride my bike because we didn't talk about it on the podcast, or we did probably, but. You know, I'll be graduating college here soon, but right. I'd like to ride my bike to, like, I'd like to rely on a car not as much as possible, at least on my daily drive. Why is that? What do you like about the bike more than the car? I don't know. Less money. Costs less money, yeah. Yeah, that, and, I mean, you can go pretty crazy distances in and out. If you're on flat ground like Virginia Beach, you can get far on your bike pretty short time, you know, so yeah, ride your bike to work, get your exercise in. I don't know, win-win for me. No, I'm with you on that one. I definitely am. Listen to your music of the bike. In your head. Yeah, right now I think my bike costs more than my car does. Really? Yeah. The one you ride for Jimmy John's? Yeah. Oh, no way. I've heard, I mean, dude, they're not cheap. That's like my Fuji Sportive, the bottom of the line. Yeah. I mean, dude, it still ain't cheap, man. Like, No.
You want a good bike, you got to put the money into it.
Yeah, I don't have much of a car. I mean, it works, but
Yeah.
But yeah, I hear you. Like I mean, I'll do things where like I'll choose to, because I'm commuting from Western Branch. I'll park in Portsmouth and then take the ferry over.
Yeah.
And it gives me like 4 more miles each way on my bike, and then I'm paying slightly less because I'm not having to go through the tunnel, so I'm not paying the tolls. I still have to pay toll on the ferry to get my
to actually cross the ferry.
Yeah, so it's $2 as opposed to like $2.53, $2.73 at peak times. I don't forget what exactly it is, but that saves me about $1.
And you're on the ferry.
I'm on the ferry. Yeah, right. I'm on a ferry. I'm commuting on a ferry. Like,
you're outside when you're on your bike too, like riding. I mean, where I'm from, well, I wouldn't be doing this on my way to work. I'd probably be on some crazy roads, but Pungo's all farmland. You're just riding right through fields and open fields. It's sweet, man.
Well, even if you're riding at the ocean front, like if you're commuting to work in the ocean front, you got the
which
boardwalk.
I used to.
Yeah, I mean that's not bad riding for the most part. I mean, there's a couple sections where you have to suck it up and mix it up
curves
with
and stuff,
with cars, but you can't get away from that.
I mean,
it happens everywhere.
It was like what, 7 from my house to my job at the ocean front was 7 miles there, 7 miles back. So that's easy peasy. Like.
Yeah, that's an easy 45-minute ride on a beach cruiser.
Yeah, 40 exactly. That's what it was. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, that's about what I do on the. I think one way to my house is 10 miles if I drive, 12 miles if I take the bike.
Wait, from
here, yeah, it's 12.
You can ride 12 miles back to your house? Mm-hmm. Oh, really? Oh. Wait, so what's the ferry, just when you just want to...
Well, regardless of how, I have to get over the Elizabeth River somehow.
Yeah.
So the shortest way is to take the ferry.
Yeah, okay.
If I'm driving, I can go through the Midtown Tunnel, and that's about 2 miles shorter than taking the ferry on my bike.
Damn.
And then if I want a really long day, I can skip the ferry and I can go over the Berkeley and the Jordan bridges, and that's about 14 miles.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe 15 miles one way.
And then you're working all day.
Right, yeah. So a lot of days I'd just rather drive to the ferry and then just hop on that, assuming if the weather's good. Like if the weather's crappy, then I'll just drive right here to work because I'm going to be miserable at work. I don't need to be any more miserable sitting around.
It's crazy, man. You work and ride your bike, and then you still want to ride your bike more when you get off. Like, where did that even come from?
Yeah, you're like, I just want to ride more. People are like, how can you do it? You guys are so fun. I don't understand.
The only thing, like, sometimes it does get annoying getting your, like, if you don't ride your bike all day, getting your miles in, because, I don't know, like, a 30-mile ride is what I do.
Right.
Like, an average when I'm at home, like, on a weekend day. I mean, and that'll take, like, I don't know, like an hour and a half pretty much. Maybe, I don't know. I don't track my rides. My phone dies too quick.
Right.
I lose my Wi-Fi and my phone will literally die. If I go on a 30-mile ride, my phone will die because I'm playing music. And,
Are you streaming stuff?
Well, most of the time, yeah.
Yeah, that's I was noticing last week I was just streaming everything, and then my phone was dying so fast. I was like, okay, apparently I need a new battery, and I gotta stop streaming. So, I ended up choosing when I got home and I had Wi-Fi. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and download a whole bunch of podcasts and music to listen to. Mm-hmm. What are some of the podcasts you listen to when you're at work?
Well, at work I don't listen to too many podcasts just because you got do you have a wireless headphones or?
No, I'm wired in.
Yeah, mine, I don't like stopping my podcast in and out because I'm always hitting the thing. I keep doing this, no one can see this. Yeah. I'm always hitting the pause and stop button on my headphones.
Yeah, you're doing the, for those of you who can't see this, which is everyone who's listening to this, what you can't see is Kyle is reaching towards his chin to grab the pause button on his earbud wire so that he's stopping his podcast in the middle of it. You can't see that. No, I totally get it. Yeah, that is hard, and that's one of the things. Like when I come into the to the shop, I'm like,
put on some music.
I pause it when I come into the shop because I got to be able to hear what other people in the shop are saying to me, like medium Coke. What was that?
Yeah, no, you can't be listening to music, talking to customers. No.
Does not work.
No. So
and then they look at you. They're like, "You're not paying attention to me."
Yeah, you're right. And you're like, "Yeah, I'm really not." This conversation is very interesting.
No, you're not exciting me.
Nah.
Yeah, no, that's. So, what are you listening to for music then when you're at work?
Mostly jam music stuff. Like Fish or Pigeons playing ping pong, stuff where you can really go into your own head while you're riding, just powering through that wind right in your face. And
yeah, because we get 43rd Street with the wind.
That road is nuts with the wind, dude. It's fun on the way back, but out there.
Yeah, and again, for those of you who aren't, riding around right now with us at Jimmy John's.
This is a windy part of the year.
Yeah, Old Dominion University is like a big square, and so 43rd Street runs along one side of it, and we'll spend a lot of times having to ride all the way down. The whole road has got to be, what? Almost 3/4 of a mile long.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, it's just so it's straight and
not quite a mile.
Yeah, it's not quite a mile.
About.
And
feels like it.
And you'll be riding down, and the wind will just be blowing off of the Chesapeake Bay straight down the
Nothing's
the road.
Stopping it.
Yeah, so you'll have like this 15, 25, 35 mile an hour headwind. And
it's fun, though.
There's no hiding from it.
It makes the day fun. It'll give you a little monkey wrench in your day.
Oh my god, yeah, and you're
makes your miles harder.
You're trying to lean down as much as possible.
Oh, dude, it'll blow you right off the
But if you lean down too much, then the soda starts leaking in your backpack.
Yep, exactly. That's funny. Yeah, exactly. I usually don't lean too far on my bike. I don't like that position that much.
Yeah.
I don't like being hunched over like that.
I'll do it.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Well, yeah, and I grew up doing a lot of long distance riding with aero bars on my road
Is that
bikes.
what these are?
Yeah,
I've seen
skinny
dudes.
ones. Yeah.
I've seen dudes because when I go on my long rides.
Yeah.
Like at about 40 miles to like 40 to 50 miles, my back, dude. I can feel it. It's like that's what's stopping me from getting to like, 60, 70.
Yeah, and that's where, sometimes doing some work with the bike fit can make a big difference in like figuring out. 100%.
Yeah. Because my old bike, from that it would start hurting at like 30 miles. This one, the one I'm riding now, is like 45, and I'm like, oh, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's posture or like.
It can be both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's different ways to hold yourself. What I would find with the aero bars is that they would allow me to take the pressure off of my hands.
When you're just straight leaning on them like that?
Yeah, because you're taking that pressure and you're putting it onto your forearms.
And your elbows, too.
Yeah.
Dude, my elbows feel it, too. At least the way I hold it. I don't know.
Yeah, there's different ways to hold it, but and so I grew up riding those, so I still, even though I'm on the mountain bike, when I'll be going down 43rd Street, because I've got that big arc in the front of my bike.
I've seen you do it.
Yeah, I'll grab the front of that arc, and I'll just be laying down on my handlebars and just getting as aerodynamic as I possibly can.
And that's where the jam music comes in.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so I'll be listening to
just anything.
LCD Sound System, or sometimes Daft Punk. It's funny whenever I tell Siri to play Daft Punk, especially when I'm at Jimmy John's, I almost always get the slow tempo stuff. I'm like, God damn it, no! Like, give me the dance number.
I'm trying to move.
I need 120 beats per minute.
Minimum.
Yeah.
Straight up.
All right, just play Chemical Brothers. Brothers got to work it out.
I like listening to that nice smooth jazz lately. Like a nice piano.
Like a little Michael Bolton?
Dude, to be honest, I don't know. I go to Shuff on my Spotify, and it's like a smooth jazz playlist. The only ones I know are like Nick Coleone and Ali Silk, man.
Oh.
Dude, it's crazy. It puts you in a nice, relaxed mood.
I can get that.
No words or nothing, just...
Yeah. You know,
It's smooth.
I mean, I kind of feel like Garth in Wayne's World, the movie, when
I actually just watched that yesterday.
And they're like, oh, let's go to the, I forget, is it the Michael Bolton concert? And he has this daydream where he's at a Michael Bolton concert, but he's really actually sitting in and he's been strapped into a dentist chair.
Oh yeah, that dude, yeah. He's just like tearing his mouth apart.
Right, and he's like,
yeah, that's right. I was thinking, or was it Kenny G? Because
it was Kenny G.
It was Kenny G, yeah, because I recognize that whatever that song is, you'd know it.
I couldn't think if it was Kenny G, Michael Bolton, or Yanni. But
just Kenny G, just because I remember that his most popular song is like, ooh, that's some Kenny G right there.
I can't jam with you on that one. I respect it, but I'm not.
That guitar, the tones of the guitar and some smooth jazz, man. Oh, I love it. Like Lotus, one of my favorite bands is Lotus, and they take funk, jazz, and nowadays, like just straight EDM, electronic music, and mash it all up. And
I could get into that. Like, there's a lot of music where if it has a beat to it for riding, I can enjoy that.
Dude, it's as dirty funk as dirty funk can be. I call it a funk bath. A lot of shows, a dance party.
All right. Well, listen, I got to wrap this up. Kyle, it has been great.
Yeah,
thanks, man.
It was fun, dude.
All right. Thanks, y'all, for listening to another episode of Tell Me About Your Bike.
My Big Wheel by Wesley Cheney. I called it My Big Wheel. It was a bright red, yellow, and blue hard plastic tricycle. And now, looking back 40 years, it seems impossibly small. But it was my first trike, my first big wheel, and I could make it go like the wind. It was also my first fixed gear. There were no brakes on it. I had to push my little feet against the constantly rotating pedals in order to make it stop. If I got going too fast on a hill, the pedals were liable to bite me in the ankles and make me crash. I must have crashed it into a shrubbery or two. I'm sure I must have tipped it over at least once, but I don't remember the crashes. I only remember the feeling of the wind in my face and the rumble of that big red plastic wheel between my legs. It was intoxicating, and the thrill has never left me. I remember racing against my older brother Calvin on his blue tricycle. We called his trike the Chips Bike. We would pretend to be motorcycle cops on our little big wheels, racing from one end of the parsonage driveway to the other. He was Ponch, I was Roy. We were Chips, cruising down the freeway into the setting sun on our police choppers. There was, of course, many requisite sirens and yelling. Cal couldn't move his legs very well, and half my memories are of pushing him around on his trike so he could go fast too. I can remember the hard plastic red wheel slipping on the sand and gravel when I would try to climb the slightest of hills on my tricycle. I preferred to ride Cal's Chips Bike because it had a real front wheel, meaning it actually had rubber on the front. It had a little bit more grip as I tried to get up the hill. But my mom was adamant that that was Calvin's bike, and he was liable to punch me if I stole it. Well, the Pittsford parsonage was on a hill, and I can remember riding my trike up it on one or two occasions. My mother didn't like us to ride in the road, but it was a quiet country road. She was also afraid we would ride our bikes into the ditch, which we did once or twice. And on at least one occasion, I may have pushed my brother Cal into the ditch. There's a saying that the past is another country. Well, even our own country can be another country. Listening to the Mormon Stories podcast reminds me of how varied our experience of the world can be. It's like viewing the world through magical spectacles and seeing an alternate reality that lies right next to ours. In the Mormon Stories world, they speak the same language and sing many of the same songs, but they took a fork in the road, and now their experience of the divine is expressed in an utterly distinct manner. They worship the same God, but with different forms. Mormon Stories reminds me that I'm not the only one. After all that digression into what Mormon Stories means for me, I should at least talk about what Mormon Stories is. While the title of the podcast is fairly descriptive, let me quote from Wikipedia. Mormon Stories Podcast is a podcast principally hosted by psychologist John Dellon, featuring interviews with individuals and occasionally scholars on Mormon topics. The podcast is noted as an arena for skeptic and dissident individuals critical of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In 2005, after a crisis of faith in finding reasons to stay a member in the LDS Church, John Dellon created the Mormon Stories podcast as an open discussion of Mormon issues, with the intention of giving listeners reasons to remain in the church too. Through interviews, Mormon Stories focused on varying Mormon experiences and perspectives, including those antagonistic, apologetic, intellectual, gay, black, fundamentalist, and dissenting. John Dellon stopped and restarted the project several times due to his own personal crises of faith. In 2010, Dellon resumed the blog and podcast, focusing on faith issues, mental illnesses, and notable guests. In 2015, Dellon said Mormon Stories has tens of thousands of listeners and that the podcast's goal has always been to alleviate suffering. It's an act of love. Ironically, John Dellon was excommunicated from the Mormon Church for apostasy in 2015. Mormon Stories asks big questions and small, and reminds me of our shared humanity, and for that reason alone, it's worth listening to. I'll admit that at times I've had an antagonistic relationship with my faith tradition, and these days my theology is closer to that of Thomas Jefferson than to my namesake John Wesley. I identify with the skeptics and the critics. But I still yearn for spiritual meaning. So, if you found yourself in a similar situation, check out Mormon Stories Podcast. So thanks for listening to another episode of Tell Me About Your Bike. You can listen to Tell Me About Your Bike on Apple's podcast app, as well as Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and plenty more. In the next episode of Tell Me About Your Bike, I'll be sitting down with my daughter Abigail for a conversation about growing up on the back of a bike. Please rate and review Tell Me About Your Bike so that more people can hear the good news of bicycling. I want to change the world. I want to make biking as common as driving, and I can only do it with your help. If you leave your name and a detailed review, I'll be sure to mention you on a future episode. Slamzilla on Apple's podcast says, "What's up, bro? This is a fantastic podcast. Wes has a sparkling personality with a contagious energy to get you pumped up for your bike rides. Hearing those stories makes me want to hop on my bike right now." Well, thanks, Slamzilla, for that awesome review. Each episode, I record my own ukulele backing tracks. Last week, I played a variation on Late Night Double Feature from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. If you think you recognize the song that I'm playing, send me a message or drop me an email. If you're right, I'll give you a shout out on the podcast and send you a Tell Me About Your Bike limited edition sticker. You can email me at tellmeaboutyourbike@gmail.com. If you believe that bicycles can be vehicles for storytelling, if you want to hear more stories about bikes, the meaning of life, and everything, if this podcast brings value to your life, then please consider supporting Tell Me About Your Bike on Patreon. Your donations will help me pay Buzzsprout for hosting my podcast. You can also find the Patreon link in the show notes. I'll give you a shout out to anyone who donates, and I'll send an exclusive Tell Me About Your Bike sticker to all of my patrons. I host Tell Me About Your Bike with Buzzsprout. When I was setting up my podcast, I needed to find a website that made it easy for me to host my podcast. So if you're in the market for a podcasting platform, check out Buzzsprout. If you're wondering what I looked like when I was a skinny kid on my big wheel trike, then check out Tell Me About Your Bike on Instagram and Facebook, where you can see a picture that my mom took. She just scanned a bunch of Kodachrome slides of me as a kid on various bikes, and I'll be sharing them on Throwback Thursdays. #TBT. If you've got a story about the meaning of life, the universe, and bicycling, drop me a line at tellmeaboutyourbikes@gmail.com. Let's meet up, let's go for a spin, make some memories, and record a podcast. So keep the rubber side down and keep on rolling. Cheers, y'all.